Umbraco gang, it's me, Warren, and in today's Hack Make Do, we're going to take a look at the shiny new content delivery API coming in Umbraco 12 and higher. I want to show you how today that we can extend the content delivery API to get the data exactly what we need and show how extensible it is. So let's jump on in and take a look. So first thing to note is that the lovely documentation team and CMS team have already documented the content delivery API, along with how to get up and running with the release candidate. So you can see here, I would need to install the .NET New latest Umbraco templates, and at the time of this recording, it is 12.0 RC2, and then create a new project based off that, which I've already done. And we can have this tab open here to refer to the content delivery API later on. So I have my Umbraco site running. You can see it's Umbraco 12 RC2, and I have some content for us to work with when using the content delivery API. So I have a blog root node and an authors root node, and the blog node is just kind of a list view collection of blog posts. And the same for authors. So authors, I have myself and my lovely boss, Emma. Here you can see I've kind of extended, rather than just a blog post is written by Warren. You might want to learn more about Warren or Emma and have a short biography, their Twitter handle, I don't know, their Instagram, GitHub, whatever, along with a photo. So this is linked to content that we've created as blog posts. You can see I've got blog A, B, C, D, and E. And if I just go into one of them, you can see that I've got a content picker here that is picking the authors from over here. So if I just see that, you can see that I've got myself and Emma and Warren. And obviously I could add more in the future. So let's just browse away. So that's the data that I've got and the data structure. Relatively simple to begin with. Obviously you could have a more complex structure of content. So the first thing to note is that we need to enable the content delivery API. And if you was paying attention and kind of reading the documentation, and you would have know that this is what it mentions. So in app settings, there is a new key or section under the Umbraco, is it in the same level? Yeah, Umbraco CMS, then delivery API, that we need to enable it. Out the box, it's not enabled for version 12. You need to kind of opt in and say that this is what you want, which I've done. There is some other options here. I won't go into detail to it now because the documentation does a great job of that. So I've set that up, and the new .NET New template in the startup class has already scaffolded the correct thing that I need. But if I was upgrading a project, say from version 11 and coming up to version 12, then in my startup class, I would need to add the line add delivery API in this configure services method. With that done, we can now jump back to the browser and start experimenting and testing out our content delivery API. So we're going to browse to Umbraco and then go /Swagger. And Swagger is a nice UI tool to kind of browse and view an API and test it out directly in the browser. It's based on the Open API spec, hence OAS free, so Open API specification version 3. Here we've got a default API. This is if you had your own APIs that you're kind of dealing with in Umbraco. But we've got the Umbraco delivery API, or the content delivery API. And you see, we've got 3 API endpoints here. The main one being the content endpoint, which has parameters such as fetch, filter, sort, and skip and take. This is the main one that we're going to look at today and see how that we can extend the filter and the sort. The other 2 is that we want to get a specific piece of content. So maybe I want to get a content with a specific path, so like a URL or a path in our content structure. And same for getting a single piece of content based on its ID or its key. So let's browse to this first one, and you can see it would give me an example of what maybe the API response would look like. This is just an example. It's not working with my data. And same with what a bad request and a 404 request would look like. But the best way to do this is actually click this lovely try out button, and we can just experiment. So let's just leave everything as is, aka the defaults out of the box. Let's just click execute and see what happens. So I've got a total of 9 items, and here you can see it's listed out that blog root node. Nothing, it doesn't have any properties because it's just like a list view container. And then we've got this blog A, which has is a blog post which has a property of author, which in our case was a content picker. And as it's a content picker, the content delivery API is trying to be helpful here for us, and is auto expanded at least the node name, the root, and the kind of the ID or the key that we can then use if we wanted to get further information about that piece of content with the other APIs. Also there in the documentation it talks about how we could expand on this and get more properties, so like that Twitter handle if we wanted it in this response. But for now this all looks good. I've got blog A, B, C, which is from myself, Warren. Good. Okay, so let's just quickly jump to the documentation and let's scroll to about halfway down where it talks about query parameters, and you can see that we've got this expand, fetch, filter, and sort. So for now let's concentrate on filter and sort, and I'll let you go and experiment and look up with expand and fetch and see what you get on with. But for now, let's say I don't want those 2 root nodes, and maybe I don't want the author nodes as well. I only want blog posts. Give me everything that is a blog post. So let's amend our filter and just double check the documentation. So it's content type. It's either colon or semicolon. I can never remember. So let's call it colon, content type colon, and then the alias of the document type or content type. So content type and then an alias of blog post, and then execute. We should have 5 items. Yeah, so blog A, B, C, D, and E. And then let's take a look. So we can filter by the content type and filter by the name of the node or the node name. And then for sort, we've got a few more options here. We can sort by the create date, the level, the name, the sort order, and the update date in either ascending or descending order. So let's do it by name of the node in descending order. So let's, rather than A, B, C, D, E, let's change the sort to be the opposite. Name, colon, and we'll say D, E, S, C for descending. Execute. We now have these responses as blog E, blog D, blog C, B, and A. But what if I wanted to filter, say, for example, give me all the blog posts that are from Emma. Let's just try this and see what happens. Uh-oh, 400. The filter option has not been found. Okay, well, we can fix this, and I'm going to show you with some code. So let's jump on into Visual Studio and let's take a look. So I'm just going to create a folder, and we'll just call it Content Delivery API. Could be called whatever, but for now that's good. And rather than you watch me type out code, we're going to do a little bit of copy paste just to save on some time today. The first one is an author. Well, it's a filter or a content filter for the content delivery API, but I want to filter on a thing called author, so on author, hence I've called it author filter. Oh, and let's just do copy paste. So the thing that we need to concentrate here on is that the class implements an interface called iFilterHandler, which you can see is from the namespace umbraco.cms.core.delivery API. And it has 2 methods that we need to implement. So this bottom one is the can handle method. So this is basically saying from the query that comes in, and the query will be author, colon, Warren, or whatever is after as well. So it's the whole value. So here we're just checking that it's not null or empty. Then otherwise we say this piece of code can't deal with this. However, if the query starts with our filter type of author colon, then yes, we can then run our other secondary method here called build filter option. So like I said, this query or this filter is the entire value. So it's author colon and the value after the colon. So hence we've got a substring here. So we're saying get me everything after the colon and store that in a variable. Then we're saying return a new filter option, look for a field name called author, and it must match this value. So it is at the time of this recording for 12.0 RC2, the only filter options that are working to date is and is not. Unfortunately, contains and does not contains, there is a bug with it, as far as I've been told by the team. But as far as I know, they're going to get this fixed for the 12.0 release, so all should be good. But for now, let's keep it as filter operation.is. And then the values is obviously the value that we want to kind of search against the author field. So it would be Warren. So that's one piece. So now we've got this author filter. We need to enrich the content delivery API with our author field. We need to say, look, whenever you're indexing or creating content, when storing it in the content delivery API, make sure that you add a field called author and store this specific value. So to begin with, the content delivery API is backed by Examine and Lucene. Ken and Elitza tell me that this could be or will be abstracted away, so that in the future it could be powered by Redis, Azure Search, Elasticsearch, whatever. So hence this is semi-agnostic. But for the first iteration, it is using Examine under the hood here. So with that in mind, let's create our second class. Add class, and I'm just checking on this monitor that my recording doesn't stop for the 5th time today. So hopefully we'll get this this recording right tonight. So next class that I need to create is called a content index handler. And the thing to note with these two classes that I'm adding is that I'm not having to register them and to the DI. These kind of classes, because they are of a specific interface, they're being type scanned. So just by having this classes or code in our code base, Umbraco will automatically pick them up and register them for us. So we don't need to do any kind of registration magic that we may do with other types of extension points in Umbraco. So yes, I need author content index handler. Oh, content index would probably be nicer. Umbraco author content indexer. I can't even get my words out this evening. So let's copy this piece of code. Oh, as I've made everything super tiny. Perfect. Right. So the important thing to note in this class is that we're inheriting the interface called iContentIndexHandler. In the constructor, we're asking the dependency injection or DI to give us an instance of iUmbraco context factory. We need this further later in the code to kind of fetch pieces of content from the content cache based on a picked content. So the author that we pick stores a UDI GUID, so it's a key. So we need to ask the Umbraco context factory in the content cache, give me the specific piece of content based on that ID or that key. But the two things that an iContent indexed handler does have is these two methods. One is called getFields and the other is called getFieldValues. So getFields is just needs to return a collection of index fields. So this is saying I might have one or more fields that I want to add to the index or the collection or the data store. So in this case, I'm giving it a name of author. That's obviously the same name as in the filter here. And then I'm saying what is the type of data that is stored in this field. And in the field type, we have things like date. Is it a raw string? Can it be analyzed? Is it a number? Is it a sortable string? Is it a date? Yeah, I've just gone through the list again. But yeah, you get the gist. So I want to say that this is a sortable string because I want to then say that all the authors such as Emma, Warren, maybe we had Tom and John and Alice later in the future. We want to make sure that we can all sort them based on, yeah, alphabetical. As this piece of data, a name, an author's name, a name doesn't really vary by culture, we can say that, yeah, this is false. And then the get field values, so we've said like we're going to add this field or these collection of fields, and now we want to say this is the value that you're going to store from this piece of Umbraco content, so a content node. You're then going to say with this content node, I want to store this value or values in these index fields. So here we're saying from the piece of content that's getting indexed currently or getting added for the delivery API, can we get a value called or a property called author, and it should be a UDI, a GUID UDI. So that's like we said, the content picker, and it just stores a key. If the author ID is null, then it might be because that we have a piece of content that is not a blog post, hence the other content types that we have in our site structure. We then use the Umbraco content factory to ensure that we get an Umbraco context. Great, we check that it's not null and do the usual dance of null checking. And then we use the content cache, the published content cache, to say get me the piece of get me the content ID. Ugh, can't get my words out tonight. Get the ID, get the content from the ID that we've picked up here. That's what I want to say. Thank you. We got there in the end. If we do manage to find that, then we were going to turn. This is what we are going to return is an array. So if we had multiple fields that we was indexing, we would obviously need to return multiple index field values as well to kind of map up to the different fields. So here you can say the field name is author and the values is an array of objects. Because you could store multiple values if you wanted to. But in our case, the picked author node is the node name. But I could obviously then get the Twitter handle or the biography or something else if I wanted another index field up here in this content indexer. I could do the same. And then I've just got a fall through if some stuff is null. So with these two files, an iContent index handler and an iFilter handler, we're now able to perform our search. Let's just boot up the site and let's go back to Swagger and let's rerun this. So we said author : Emma, and before we got a 400, we can't find this. Now if you run it, we can see that we get all the blog posts, free blog posts that are from Emma. So blog A, B, and E. And then if I was to do author Warren, and let's spell it all weird variant, here we go, execute, you can see I get blog C, blog D, and that's it, because those are the only two posts I created. So that's good. I've now be able to filter specific blog posts. But what if I wanted to maybe sort by them? Let's see if that works. I want to sort by authors descending. So I want all of Warren's blog posts first, then all of Emma's blog posts. Okay, same sort of our problem. We haven't implemented an iSort handler. So let's go and do that now. So this is the final piece of code that I'm going to just copy across and quickly run through for you. Saves a lot of typing, especially if I can't manage to speak that well. I'm going to even call it an author class. Author salt. Yeah, if I can't talk that well tonight, maybe live coding wouldn't be the best thing either. So I have an interface called iSortHandler. Automatically get registered with Umbraco. It's then going to allow us to then do sorting on the author field. It's a similar sort of code. We've got a canHandle method, same as the filter, saying that can we deal with this request. Then after the colon, we're getting this, should it be ASC or descending? Hence we're doing a substring. And then based on that string, we're then saying if it starts, it starts with ASC, ascending, then set it to ascending, otherwise it's a descending. And then the field name that we want to sort on is author. So that's it. That is the 3 pieces of extension points that I want to show tonight. Let's just run this and just show you that it does work. So let's now click execute now. So we can see that we get 9 items, which you may be thinking, well, there's only 5 blog posts. We didn't ask the filter to say only show me requests or content types that are of blog posts, so we could modify that in a minute. But you can see, first of all, I'm getting stuff from Warren. There's only 2 blog posts from me, and then it goes Emma, and Emma. Even though it didn't find anything for the author, it still included the results because we didn't filter the collection. So we just need to do that. So we can just do content type colon blog post, execute that. We should now only have 5 results. Yes, good. So we can say these are Warren's blog posts. Let's do it the other way around. Let's say that we want Emma's stuff first. So her 2 blog posts. But we can combine the sort as well. So we could say, let's just refer to the documentation. The create date, the level, or the name. So we could say that get me all of Emma's blog posts, but rather than being in order of blog A, B, C, or A, B, whatever it is, D, let's reverse it and say that the name now needs to be in order of D, B, A. But the more realistic scenario is that probably you would sort on the create date or maybe the update date, so that you get Emma's latest blog posts. Here are Emma's 5 latest blog posts, because we could then change this take to say 5 and say that let's get Emma's 5 latest blog posts. But for now, we're just going to sort it by author and by name, just to show the scenario working. So name, my brain is really kind of switched off tonight. Here we go. Descending, there we go, perfect. So blog E, blog B, blog A, all from Emma, and then blog D, and then blog C. Perfect. So that is the content delivery API coming in Umbraco 12. You can see how powerful it is, especially with these extension points to enable you to kind of filter and manipulate and sort the data however you see fit, especially when there's talk in the future of it not necessarily being backed by Examine, but just by other data stores, be it Redis, Azure Search, whatever. Then you can see that the power of the content delivery API is going to be fabulous. I look forward to seeing what you do with it. Let me know, and until next time, bye. Right, this better have recorded, otherwise I'm going to go mad.